Red flags in a home that buyers miss every single time. A lot of buyers think that they're looking at a house carefully during a showing, but most people are really looking at the finishes, the kitchen, the paint colors, the staging, the lighting. Meanwhile, experienced buyers are paying attention to a completely different set of things. The ceilings, the doors, the flooring, the smell of the home, the drainage outside. Not because every little thing means that there's a major issue, but because small inconsistencies usually tell you where to look more closely. And honestly, most expensive home problems in DFW don't show up dramatically during a showing. They show up in patterns. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through some of the biggest red flags, myths of all time when touring homes. And not to make you paranoid about every house, but to help you understand which things are normal, which things deserve a better and closer look, and which things can become expensive later if nobody catches them early. As I was walking through a home with buyers recently that looked great online, updated kitchen, nicely staged, a great neighborhood, and at first glance, the home showed well. Then we started noticing small things. A section of the ceiling had been repainted, one bedroom door wouldn't fully close, there was a very strong artificial scent in the hallway. Individually, none of those things automatically mean that there's a major problem, but when multiple small inconsistencies show up together, experienced buyers slow down and they investigate it further. This is usually where the conversation changes. Hi, I'm Brittany, Stewart with Lux Realty Group, and I help buyers across DFW understand not just what it looks like during a showing, but what actually makes sense long-term after closing. The first thing buyers miss all the time is isolated fresh paint. Not a fully renovated room. I mean like one section of the wall, one corner, one patch on the ceiling that looks newer than everything around it. Because in North Texas, isolated cosmetic repairs can sometimes point to previous leaks, moisture, of course, cracks from movement, settlement, foundation issues. Now, to be fair, not every paint patch means that there's something wrong. Sometimes repairs were completed correctly and everything else is completely fine. But experienced buyers will usually ask one question immediately: why was only that one section painted? And this is the difference. Most buyers see fresh paint and think updated. Experienced buyers want to know the context behind it, especially fresh paint shows up along water stains, bubbling of drywall texture, or there's a musty smell nearby. The next thing buyers look for consistently is doors and windows that don't close correctly. Now that matters in DFW more than it does in other parts of the country because North Texas soil moves constantly. Our clay heavy soil expands and contracts aggressively depending on the drought conditions and moisture levels. That movement affects the slab foundation over time. Now, one sticking door itself might not automatically mean foundation issues. Sometimes it's humidity or minor settling, but if multiple doors are sticking, the frames look uneven, they're not squared, and you start seeing diagonal cracking nearby, experienced buyers start paying attention to that. Because at this point, you're no longer looking at one isolated issue, you're looking at a pattern. And foundation work in DFW can be quite extensive, quickly, depending on its severity. Another thing buyers underestimate is smell. If a house smells heavily like candles or Glade plugins, diffusers, strong cleaning products during a showing, you make sure to pay attention to that. Sometimes it's completely harmless, of course, but sometimes people are trying to mask moisture issues, smoke, pet odors, or even mold. And honestly, buyers can't ignore this consistently because they're distracted by the visual presentation of the home. Experienced buyers pay attention to both. If something smells damp underneath that fragrance, you got to investigate it further. Another red flag that gets missed all the time is uneven flooring or even sloping. This is one that's easy to miss because buyers are usually focused on the countertops or the fixtures or any finishes while they're walking through the home. Meanwhile, experienced buyers are paying attention to how the home feels physically. Do the floors feel level? Do the transitions between the rooms feel uneven? Does one side of the room feel lower than the other? And again, this doesn't automatically mean major structural problems. Some settling is normal, especially in older homes, but significant sloping combined with other signs can point to movement underneath the home. And in DFW, that is something that you absolutely want to get inspected carefully. Another issue that buyers overlook is drainage around the property. If you go outside and you look at how the water would move around the home, does the yard slope away from the foundation or does it move towards it? Are downspouts dumping water directly beside the slab? Do you see any standing water or even erosion? Because drainage problems probably can create a secondary issue over time. Foundation movement, moisture intrusion, landscape erosion, and honestly, a lot of buyers spend so much time looking at the inside of the home, they completely ignore what the exterior is telling them already. And the last thing that I would pay attention to is poor renovation work or obvious DIY modifications. This shows up a lot on flipped homes and heavily renovated properties: uneven cabinet installation, mismatched flooring transitions, loose outlets, painting over the hinges, odd electrical work. None of those things automatically make a house bad, but they can indicate work was done quickly or without proper oversight. And if shortcuts were consistently made, buyers need to ask whether shortcuts were also taken behind the walls with plumbing, electrical, or the structural work. Because once you own the house, fixing those problems, it becomes your responsibility. And this is the important part. Not every red flag means you should walk away from a home. Every house has imperfections, even expensive ones. The goal is not finding a perfect property. The goal is understanding what you are buying before you commit to purchase it. Sometimes issues are already repaired correctly. Sometimes they're negotiable. Sometimes they're manageable with the right expectations and inspections. The buyer who usually makes the best decisions are the ones that don't panic over every single little issue. They're the ones who slow down enough to evaluate what they're actually seeing. So honestly, the biggest takeaway from this is pretty simple. Most expensive home problems are not completely hidden. Buyers just do not always know what they're looking for yet. And that's totally normal. And it's exactly why inspections, due diligence, and having the right people guiding you through the process matters so much, like an experienced and savvy agent. So I want to hear from you. Have you toured a home recently or noticed something that immediately changed how you felt about a house? Or have you ever discovered a problem after closing that you wish that you had caught earlier? Drop it in the comments. I read every one.